Howling winds, soaking rain, and wild waves slamming the East Coast.
There are homes right now under several feet of water.
Tonight is not the night to check out the storm.
Dozens of Quincy residents are being rescued from their homes.
It's kind of scary. We're lucky. It's just things that will get lost.
John Kelly revives the Porter scandal and says he won't resign over it.
This seems to be a feeding frenzy inside the West Wing. I mean, everybody's shooting at everybody.
I've served under 6 administrations. I have never seen such chaos.
If they want to call it chaos, fine, but we call it success.
The president is also facing growing criticism over his sudden announcement of new tariffs on steel and aluminum coming into the U.S.
On an average car, the actual impact will be a fraction of 1%.
And you're going to see a lot of good things happen.
Good morning to you. We're so grateful for your company as always. I'm Christy Paul and
I'm Martin Savage. Jim for Victor Blackwell. Great to be with you.
Welcome to the wake-up call at 2 a.m. I know.
Thank you.
So we've got a top story for you this morning. It's something that we're watching very closely, this deadly bomb cyclone that's impacting the Northeast. The violent winds have knocked down trees. They are destroying homes. Take a look at some of the latest we're getting in.
You can hear just how strong those winds are. At least 5 people are now reported dead as a result of this storm, and the worst isn't over yet. The torrential rain is now causing widespread flooding. Another major concern, the violent winds tearing down power lines. More than 1 million people are without power from Virginia to New England.
Massachusetts is seeing the worst of it with more than 400,000, and there are state of emergencies in Virginia and Maryland as well this morning.
Let's get right over to CNN's Ryan Young. He's live in Quincy, Massachusetts. That's just south of Boston. Ryan, officials there are expecting, unfortunately, that there could be homes lost in this storm. You're in the worst of it. What are you seeing?
Yeah, homes could be lost. We know more than 70 people were rescued from their homes just yesterday during the height of the storm. It's hard to hear you guys. All the wind that's blowing, you can see the position some people were left in. This car just sitting in a lot of water that was left here as people tried to evacuate. This was a tough 24 hours for people who were trying to deal with this storm. Coastal communities in Massachusetts pounded by monster waves. High tide sent water rolling down streets and into homes. In Quincy, dozens of residents had to be rescued by trucks and scooped up by front loaders. Christine Waycarter was one of those getting a ride out of danger.
It's kind of scary because we were the ones standing up on it and having to hold on. But yeah, we're lucky. It's just things that will get lost.
Storm conditions are expected to improve on Saturday, but the wind is still a factor, so is coastal flooding. Near Portland, Maine, storm surge left this home teetering on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean.
The plan is to lift it and move it back a little bit, I believe, but it's a lot of things that have to happen before that happens, so we're just trying to keep it from going anywhere.
You feel bad for the people, but that comes with having a house on the water. Ocean winds, you lose.
Another issue is power outages. In Watertown, Massachusetts, high winds made power lines fall like dominoes.
We had traffic lights all over town that were out there affected by this grid, but the first responding Eversource troubleman, he isolated the area, had him shut the circuit off, because as you can see, the wires were over cars, and it was a pretty dangerous situation.
One woman in Brocktown, Massachusetts says her son is lucky to be alive. He was sitting in the backseat of a car when a tree came crashing down.
The house shook, and then we heard a noise. We didn't know what it was. We ran out. My son was still in the car with the tree on top of it.
Now, look, last night we talked to people who had evacuated from some of these homes at a hotel. They were telling us, look, they love this area. They love being able to be so close to the ocean, and they know that sometimes they pay for that. But they never expected this to be this powerful, the 3 high tides back to back. And, of course, we could get more water today, so everyone's sort of looking toward the ocean to see if they'll give them a break. Mother Nature has been unrelenting for some. In fact, as the light comes up, we can see a couple structures that have been damaged from the heavy winds. You're talking about some 70 miles per hour at some point, so you understand what people are going through for the last few hours. And a lot of power is out, so it'll be interesting to see what happens as we're able to survey the damage throughout the day. guys.
Yeah, I definitely will, Ryan. We'll be back in touch with you. Be careful out there. Thank you.
And those pictures are something. Hanging out of that baby there, obviously, for dear life. More than 1 million people, in fact, don't have power, as he was just talking about. I want to go to Allison Shinshar because this is such a severe storm. We know that there are 3,000 flights in the storm's path that have already been canceled. Amtrak was forced to cancel its service. It should resume, we're told, later this morning, though.
Meanwhile, more images of the impact are just pouring in. Just look at the power of that surf. The waves just going almost as high as the rooftops there. And there could be even more flooding, as we've already said, throughout the day today. The flooding here, take a look in Boston. Parts of that city are underwater. But some are not having any fun with this flooding. Take a look at this. A kayaker, actually he is enjoying the water, paddling down a waterlogged Boston street. The National Guard, though, had to rescue 50 people from their homes in nearby Quincy. And it wasn't just high winds. Heavy, wet snow and sleet fell across major cities like New York and Philadelphia.
Okay, so now we go to meteorologist Allison Shinshar, who's live in the CNN Severe Weather Center, talking about the bomb cyclone. And let's remember, Allison, we still have the last and third tidal cycle of this to go yet this morning.
That's right, yeah. And so you talk about the word that you use, bomb cyclone. So many people don't really understand what that is. So let's break it down for you. Meteorologically speaking, it is a strong storm when the atmospheric pressure drops at least 24 millibars in 24 hours or less. In layman's terms, what this really just means for us is this is a storm that rapidly intensifies. And these usually go on to be incredibly powerful storms. And that was the case with this particular storm. Just look at some of the really strong wind gusts that came in. Barnstable, Massachusetts, 93 miles per hour. Nantucket, Massachusetts, 90 miles per hour. Even Boston picking up a wind gust of 70 miles per hour. So let's talk about where the storm is now. Here's where it was located on Friday, but it's already started to make its way off the coast, now fully off the coast. However, I want to emphasize, even though the center of the storm may be off the coast right now, it's still producing some pretty big impacts. Flooding is going to be a big concern going forward. High tide for Boston is expected around noon today. For Portland, Maine, you're talking just before that, maybe a few minutes shy of noon. So that's going to be a big concern, but also winds. Now, this is going to be the longer of the concern because this is going to last well into the day Sunday. You can see we have those high wind warnings and advisories still in effect. We're still talking wind gusts right now in Nantucket, 51 miles per hour. So Martin and Christy, the thing about the winds that's so important, you talked about that number of people that are already without power. That number is likely going to get worse before it gets better, since the wind is not expected to really come down until tomorrow.
All righty. Allison Shinshar, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We're going to stay on this and keep looking at some of the pictures that are coming in this morning because, again, by about I don't know, a little bit later this morning, in several hours, they're expecting that last wave to come in.
Right. It is not over. Meanwhile, the suspect in a shooting at Central Michigan University, which left 2 people dead, that suspect is now in custody. CMU police arrested James Eric Davis Jr. this morning when he was spotted on a campus train. The victims in the shooting, James Davis Sr. and Eva Davis, are the suspect's parents. They arrived at the school Friday to pick up their son for spring break. Police are calling this a domestic situation, and they thank the community for their help in capturing Davis Jr. Vice President Pence weighed in on the deadly shooting while at an event in Detroit.
Our hearts are heavy. Another shooting on another campus. As a nation, we mourn with those who mourn, and we grieve with those who grieve. And I know I speak on behalf of everyone here when I say that today and every day we're going to continue to pray. Continue to pray for all the victims and their families from all of these terrible events.
This marks the 12th school shooting this year.
It's unbelievable. We're only at the beginning of March, and it's already the 12th. All right. Listen, another week of chaos rocking the West Wing. A close personal ally says this time, quote, something is very wrong. Why friends of the president say they're worried about his behavior as members of his family and administration are facing new scrutiny.
Plus, a Russian sex guru claims that she has hard evidence about the connections between Russian lawmakers and President Trump. And she promises to tell all in exchange for getting her out of prison. The details just ahead.
And I want to show you some just incredible video This is a rescue in California after an avalanche buried a snowboarder. Look at this. Here's what one of the rescuers had to say about the moment that thing hit.
I turned around and all of a sudden it just blew up. The snow it went probably 100 feet in the air all over the place. You couldn't even see anything.
Unraveling and unglued. That's how U.S. and U.S. officials and close friends of the president are describing him as his administration faces chaos and criticism at home and overseas.
Yeah, some of that criticism is focused on his chief of staff, John Kelly, who tried to defend how he handled the domestic abuse scandal in the West Wing. He was trying to defend himself yesterday. He ended up changing his story, though, again, which caught a lot of people off guard. CNN's Boris Sanchez live in West Palm Beach, Florida. That's where the president's spending the morning. So, Boris, I mean, we've seen this chaos in the administration before. Why does it seem different this time around?
Well, Martin and Christy, it is a lot to handle for this president. A number of controversies, really a week of chaos and disarray at this White House. That's why sources close to the president are telling CNN that they are concerned that the president may lose control. We saw him reportedly lash out at a number of staffers this week. You had the departure of Hope Hicks, the communications director, after her testimony before Congress. There were rumors about a number of other officials potentially leaving, including H.R. McMaster and Gary Cohn. Further, you had this legislative confusion from the president where he seemed to vary his position on gun control a number of times. And then the announcement that he would be slapping tariffs on imports of steel and aluminum. Both those things angered a lot of people within his own party. And adding to that, you had this controversy that John Kelly brought about, deciding to dig back into the Rob Porter scandal. He essentially tried to defend himself yesterday. Some White House sources tell us that they were puzzled and stunned by his words. He basically said that he had confirmed with Rob Porter that Porter would resign the same day that he learned about domestic abuse allegations against the staff secretary. Despite that, the White House the following day was still defending Rob Porter. So that contradicts other reporting that we got from sources that Chief of Staff Kelly and the White House counsel were made aware of these allegations against Rob Porter back in November. Kelly put out a statement essentially saying that they did not cover ourselves in glory on how we handled that situation. It was confusing. Despite that, Kelly saying that he did not do anything that would lead him to believe that he should resign. Back to you guys.
All righty, Boris Sanchez, we appreciate it so much. Thank you.
John Kelly may also be feeling pressure from inside the West Wing. A new report from the New York Times claims that President Trump has asked Kelly for help in pushing his daughter Ivanka and son-in-law Jared Kushner out of the White House. Joining me now, CNN political commentator Errol Louis. Morning to you, Errol. How are you?
Good morning.
So we already know that the president's inner circle got even smaller with the resignation of Hope Hicks. Why would the president want his family members out?
Well, there are a lot of questions that are being asked, and there's a lot of reporting that's coming out about Jared Kushner in particular. The president's son-in-law has been involved in a number of questionable meetings. He hasn't gotten his security clearance at the top secret level, even after months and months of serving in a very top position. And it all seems to be bringing a lot of negative attention to the White House. So naturally, the president has got to be thinking, do I really need this on top of everything else, the different problems that I have, to have this person very close to me bringing all of these negative headlines?
So let me ask you, Errol, Representative John Garamendi last night said about this when he was asked about all this chaos. He said it's extremely serious. Our friends, our allies have no idea what to expect from this presidency or the White House. And certainly our opponents are always looking for an opportunity to do something to us. But let me ask you this. I'm going to push back here. Does the fact that no one seems to know what President Trump will do, does it serve him in some capacity? Because opponents don't know what's coming next.
You know, Trump himself occasionally alludes to that when dealing with adversaries in particular, it's best to keep people guessing, keep them a little bit off guard. The reality is whatever small advantage you might get in one exchange of that kind is vastly outweighed by the much larger number of people, including in the U.S. government, not to mention our allies, who need some direction, who need some leadership, who need to know that the policies that the United States employs that are going to affect lots and lots of people, millions of people, is something that they can rely on. You can't do trade policy, you can't do diplomacy, you can't do, corporations can't make major investment decisions if they don't know what's going to happen down in Washington.
Errol, let me ask you real quick. John Kelly comes out, brings up the whole Porter scandal once more, admits that we didn't cover ourselves in glory. That's the great quote there. Why would he bring all this up? And why does he contradict previous statements?
Well, it's hard to imagine that he was doing anything other than trying to protect his own neck, because there have been rumors that he might be considering resignation. He has done something, though. He's kind of painted himself into a corner in a way, because just like his boss, President Trump, the rule in this White House seems to be you never apologize. It's seen as weakness. It's seen as indecisive. It's seen as better to sort of bluff your way through if you have to. And so he seems to be trying to bluff his way through. I mean, we have the facts. We know now that he had lots of information about Rob Porter's shortcomings. He did not act on those shortcomings. Rather than doing what any of us would do, which is to say, sorry, he's trying a different strategy.
All righty.
Yeah, we'll see if that works. All right, Errol Louis, thanks very much. Good to see you.
Thanks.
President Trump says that trade wars are good and easy to win. Now Europe says they're preparing to fight back. Could China be next?
Also, a Russian sex guru claims to have compelling evidence about the connections between Russian lawmakers and President Trump, and she promises to reveal all of it on one condition. Good morning, 24 minutes past the hour right now, and the White House is trying to get back on track after a particularly chaotic week. The West Wing saw new departures, more movement in the Russia investigation, and some policy changes that caused a dive on Wall Street. So just this week, we learned the FBI is looking into another Trump business deal. This time, it's Ivanka and a $360 million Canadian hotel deal. There are reports that National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster could leave his job by the end of the month. And over on Capitol Hill, longtime Trump aide and White House Communications Director Hope Hicks admitted to the House Intelligence Committee she sometimes told, quote, white lies on behalf of the president. And a day later, she announced she's going to be leaving her job there in the West Wing. Chief of Staff John Kelly reportedly has been fighting with Jared Kushner and Ivanka, and the president launched a new attack on his own attorney general. So Jared Kushner's security clearance has been downgraded, and we learned officials from 4 countries discussed ways to manipulate Kushner during foreign policy discussions. Jared and Ivanka's spokesman announced that he's leaving his White House post. HUD Secretary Ben Carson, he had to cancel this order. Have you heard about this? For a $31,000 dining set. That's after a HUD employee said she'd been demoted because she refused to spend more than legally allowed to redecorate Carson's office. On Wednesday, in a meeting with lawmakers, the president indicated he favors some new gun control measures. After meeting with the president and Vice President Pence Thursday, an NRA lobbyist said the White House didn't want gun control. And then yesterday, the White House said the president hadn't changed his mind since Wednesday. He also announced a new trade policy. Listen to this.
We'll probably have everything completed by next week. We'll be imposing tariffs on steel imports and tariffs on aluminum imports, and you're going to see a lot of good things happen.
So those tariffs are going to take effect next week. That announcement surprised those staff and sent the stock market into a tailspin. At one point, the Dow average, the industrial average, was down about 500 plus points. The Dow was down 3.05%, though, for the week. Martin?
After President Trump fired those opening shots in what could become a trade war, countries around the world are now threatening to fight back. Here's CNN correspondent Tom Foreman with a look at who the winners and losers might be in all of this if Trump follows through on his plan.
Take a look at the numbers here. The United States imports about 1/3 of all the raw steel it uses, more than 90% of all the aluminum it uses, and these proposed tariffs would push up the cost of that by 25% and 10% respectively. That's money that would have to be paid by the foreign companies that wanted to get their products onto U.S. soil. So yeah, if it became more expensive for them, it could help U.S. producers of steel and aluminum by making them more competitive, especially since they've complained for years about unfair practices overseas anyway. But what about all the companies that rely on that raw material to make cars and airplanes and equipment and aluminum cans and appliances? What about those companies? Because now they would face a different supply chain where there may be shortages, there may be higher prices, and that could affect an awful lot of people in other fields. One estimate has it that more than 80 times as many people work making stuff out of that raw material than in actually producing the raw material. Those people would now potentially face uncertain wages, uncertain hours, maybe more offshoring, not to mention what might happen with consumers out there. One estimate says some products in some places could go up by 15%. I don't think we really know that, but we do know that there is uncertainty about the consumer market and what the impact would be. Here's another question, though. Does this actually get at the trade practices of other countries? Does it strike a blow for that? It depends on who you're talking about and how this would actually be applied, because we don't have the details yet. This is where the United States gets its foreign steel from. Canada, the biggest supplier, then Brazil, South Korea, Mexico, Russia, and so forth. You know who's not on the top 10, though? China. The country that the United States, the president, has said so many years is not being a fair trading partner out there. This is the one that President Trump has said he wants to get at. Would this get at them? It might, but the numbers suggest only after it had an impact on a lot of long-standing trade allies and possibly unleashed a trade war with very uncertain outcomes.
Tom Foreman, thanks very much for breaking it down. The European Union may strike back if the president follows through on his tariff plan. They could retaliate by putting their own tariffs on major U.S. brands like Levi Jeans, Harley-Davidson motorcycles, and bourbon whiskey.
So what may be even more important than the response from Europe is China. As you heard there, they could tax soybeans or airplanes or squeeze specific U.S. companies such as Apple and Intel. CNN correspondent Matt Rivers is live in Beijing. Matt, what are you hearing there regarding this reaction and what may be to come?
Well, so far, the reaction here in China has been relatively muted because, frankly, aluminum and steel are not the kind of exports that China relies on to make sure its economy stays healthy. But if this kind of proposed tariff signals a tougher line policy from the Trump administration towards China, there is a lot the government here can do that would really hurt U.S. industry.
We'll be imposing tariffs on steel imports and tariffs on aluminum imports. And you're going to see a lot of good things happen.
Good things happen. That's not what many U.S. industries operating here in China are expecting after the president's tariff announcement Thursday. In fact, U.S. exporters that rely on the Chinese market are downright nervous. Start with the simple soybean. The U.S. is the world's top soybean exporter, and China is its biggest buyer by far. Billions and billions of dollars worth was unloaded at ports like this one last year. The Chinese soybean processing industry is already the largest in the world, and it's going to keep getting bigger. And American farmers are well positioned to take advantage of that growth. The U.S. Soybean Export Council expects U.S. exports of soybeans to keep rising for at least the next 20 years. And it's not just farmers reaping the benefits.
Your diner and your doctors and your and other companies.
Which is why all this talk of a looming U.S.-China trade war is Burke's biggest concern. The newly announced steel and aluminum tariffs, not to mention recent tariffs on Chinese solar products and a looming investigation into Chinese intellectual property theft, could signal what many have long awaited: hardline rhetoric on the campaign trail turning into harder line policy. But China will not take that line down. The Soybean Export Council was told as much by Chinese officials during a September meeting.
If there was a increased trade tensions, if there that soybeans could likely be a potential target in any type of Chinese retaliation.
Restrictions on market access could devastate U.S. industry. And it's not just soy. Other industries and companies could be government targets too. Think Apple or Boeing or Cisco, pawns in a potential trade war with lots of influence back home.
They understand very clearly the political pressure points in the U.S., whether it's in Congress or in local state houses, and certainly to the White House.
A recent survey shows the majority of U.S. companies in China think trade between both countries isn't fair. They want things to change, but nobody wants a trade war. To achieve both, any new U.S. policies will have to walk a fine line, as thin as a flake of soybean. Now, we've spoken to a lot of business owners here in China, people with the American Chamber of Commerce, and like we just said, there is a desire to change this relationship. The trade deficit between the United States and China is quite large, but most of the people we've spoken to here say these tariffs are not the way to do this. One good thing, though, perhaps, is that China has just as much to lose in a trade war as the United States does.
All right, Matt Rivers, thanks very much. China is crucial for trade. All right. It was a very tense day in Colorado yesterday after a state lawmaker was expelled over sexual harassment allegations. Democratic State Representative Steve Lebsack is accused of sexually harassing several women by either making inappropriate comments and or touching them in ways that made them uncomfortable.
The House voted for his expulsion overwhelmingly, 52-9. The move prompted 2 other state lawmakers to reveal they've been wearing bulletproof vests to work.
And I bought a bulletproof vest. And I'm wearing it. It's right here. I'm wearing Kevlar because I fear for retaliation.
Now, an outside independent investigation found the women's allegations were credible. Representative Lebsack says the findings are all flawed and asked his colleagues for a formal committee investigation.
Still to come, a possible twist in the Russia investigation. A Russian sex guru is asking for help to get out of prison in Thailand by promising to reveal secrets about the connections of Russian lawmakers and President Trump. What's it all about? We'll have the details ahead.
Vladimir Putin flexing his military might by boasting about Russia's military advances during his annual address to the country's Federal Assembly. And he said that Russia's developing a new invincible missile with almost unlimited range that will render NATO defense useless. This is a warning the U.S. officials dismissed as cheesy.
Meanwhile, in another possible twist in the Russia investigation, a Russian woman who describes herself as a seductress, you don't hear that too often these days, has bragged about her connections with Russian billionaires. She's saying that she can provide the missing links to a Russia-Trump connection to anyone who can help her get out of prison in Thailand. So let's go live to CNN senior international correspondent Matthew Chance. This is just too good to pass up. Matthew, what is the story behind this woman?
Well, it's an extraordinary story, Martin, and we're more than a little bit sceptical about it, but basically it gives us a very rare glimpse into the usually closed world of Russian politics and business and how the two meet. It may even shed some light on the allegations of collusion between Russia and the Trump administration. It happens to involve a young Russian woman who describes herself as a sex coach and who is now promising to reveal more secrets, more jigsaw puzzle pieces, as she calls them, that could be of interest, she says, to the Mueller investigation. Take a look.
She promotes herself endlessly on social media as Nastya Rybka, a kind of self-styled Russian sex guru who'll supposedly teach you the art of seduction for a fee, of course.
Even if we're interacting with men who are famous actors, lawmakers, oligarchs, scientists, very few of these men, when they interact with a woman, discuss highbrow topics with them. If you want to seduce a man like that, he needs to be hooked by his basic sexual instinct.
Amid snaps and titillating videos of her frolicking on yachts and exotic beaches, she brags of liaisons with billionaires, and one billionaire in particular. These are the images that have thrust Nastya Rybka into the kind of spotlight she didn't expect. It shows her relaxing on a boat with 2 men. One of them is Oleg Deripaska, one of Russia's richest men. The other, a senior Russian official, Deputy Prime Minister Sergei Prihodka. Russia's main opposition leader seized on the images as evidence of official corruption, also suggesting the 2 men, who can be heard discussing US-Russia relations, may have served as a link between the Kremlin and the Trump campaign. Prihodka has refused to comment on the allegation. Deripaska has dismissed it as a story far from any truth. In a statement to CNN, his spokesperson said he is suing Rybka and her business partner because they, quote, maliciously made his private photos and personal information public.
It's Matthew Chance from CNN.
But it's not the first time the Russian oligarch, known to be close to the Kremlin, has fended off allegations of collusion. CNN confronted him last year after it was revealed Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, who once worked for Deripaska, offered him private briefings. Deripaska told CNN he never received any communication about it.
Did he owe you millions of dollars?
It's the news for idiots.
But it was after the promise of more detail, more information from Nastia Rybka, who was holding one of her sex and seduction classes on this beach in Thailand, that this extraordinary story appears to have taken a spy novel turn. Sex on the beach! She was arrested by Thai police for violating the terms of her tourist visa, managing to record this quick, tantalizing message aimed at the American media as she was driven away.
I'm ready to give you all the missing pieces of the puzzle, support them with videos and audio regarding the connections of our respected lawmakers with Trump, Manafort and the rest. I know a lot. I'm waiting for your offers in a Thai prison.
They're probably just the words of a desperate woman, hoping to avoid deportation to Russia. But her promise, with no evidence so far, to unlock the mysteries of the Trump-Russia scandal have certainly got Nastia Rybka the attention she's so often craved.
Well, CNN has managed to make contact with Nastia Rybka, despite the fact she's waiting her fate in Thailand in a prison there. She said she's got 18 hours of audio recordings that she wants to disclose and a mysterious photograph of an unnamed American businessman, she said, had meetings with Oleg Deripaska. So we're keeping an eye on it, Martin.
Yeah, definitely do that. Thank you very much, Matthew Chance.
All righty. We're going to share with you this incredible moment where a snowboarder is freed after he was buried by an avalanche.
Plus, top NFL prospects take over Indianapolis. Christina Fitzpatrick is working that story for us. And they're there to prove that they have what it takes to play on the big stage.
Yes, all the top prospects in the NFL take over Indianapolis to prove that they can play in the NFL. We've got more coming up on your Bleacher Report in moments.
We keep talking about what the Northeast is enduring, but parts of the West Coast have some severe weather themselves. Fears of deadly mudslides, flash floods. Tens of thousands of people were evacuated from their homes in Southern California yesterday because they're still recovering from the last round of deadly mudslides a few weeks ago.
And check this incredible moment over in Olympic Valley. After an avalanche hit the slopes of a popular ski resort, a snowboard was spotted sticking out from under a foot of snow. Here's the report from our affiliate, KOBR.
Dramatic cell phone video shows the frantic effort to dig out people trapped in a Squaw Valley avalanche. Skiers and snowboarders buried under heavy snow that came crashing down Squaw Valley slopes. Joseph Bro was one of those rescuers on the mountain. He was there the moment the avalanche hit.
I heard this sound, it sounded like a train coming through the woods. And I turned around and all of a sudden it just blew up. The snow it went probably 100 feet in the air all over the place. You couldn't even see anything.
Bro says it first became eerily silent, then came the screams for help.
People yelling for their wives, their kids.
Bro immediately went to help one man covered by the avalanche, only the tail of his snowboard exposed.
We just started digging, furiously digging.
Finally, the man's face emerged. His lips were blue. Then, suddenly...
Just then he opened up his eyes, and he's looking right at me, and he says, "Where's my wife?"
Incredibly, the buried man was okay. His wife was too.
His wife came up to him, and obviously distraught and just so happy.
Oh my gosh, so glad they're okay.
Yeah, that's stunning stuff.
And kudos to all those people that stepped up trying to help. Another snowboarder was killed in an avalanche earlier this week, though, on that same mountain.
Meanwhile, it is the biggest job interview some college athletes will ever have. It's called the NFL Combine. College's top football talents trying to secure a spot in the NFL.
Christina Fitzpatrick is here with this morning's Bleacher Report.
Good morning.
stuff?
Yes, great stuff. It's the ultimate skill challenge. Who's the fastest? Who's the strongest? Who's going to get a job at the end of it? This Bleacher Report is brought to you by the new 2018 Ford F-150. The top prospects for the NFL are showing off their talents at the Combine this weekend. And right now, everybody's talking about Penn State star Saquon Barkley. Check him out. He absolutely crushes the bench press like he's lifting a pencil. His vertical leap was an impressive 41 inches. And then he tops it all off with a lightning fast 4.4 second 40-yard dash. If you blinked, you missed him. Incredible stuff there. He was a standout on day one. Meanwhile, Oklahoma's Baker Mayfield is volunteering for arguably the hardest job in the NFL. He wants to play quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. The Browns finished last season 0-16. The season before that, they only won one game. But Mayfield says he's the man for the job.
I think if anybody's going to turn that franchise around, it'd be me, and be able to put it in the right direction. They're close. They're very close. They have the right pieces. I think they just need one guy, a quarterback, to make that difference.
Gotta love his confidence. Another quarterback looking for a job is Louisville's Lamar Jackson. He's working out as a quarterback, but reports keep circling that teams are interested to see him in the wide receiver position.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know, I thought I did a good job at quarterback. I thought I did. You know, but hey, they say what they want to see. You know, they're going to build a story. I'm here now. I'm at the Combine. I'm happy to be here. I just got to show off my ability.
Now, he did do a pretty good job at quarterback. We must say he was the 2016 Heisman Trophy winner and was a finalist again in 2017. After winning the gold at the Winter Olympics last month, the U.S. men's curling team made an appearance on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and sang their best rendition of Don't Stop Believing, which apparently became their anthem after their unexpected rise to victory, knocking off the favorite to win, Sweden.
Just a small-town girl living in a lonely world. She took the midnight train going anywhere.
Great story coming from the Olympics. I think they put curling on the map, guys.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Christina, so much. We're going to be right back.